Now I'm kind of fighting with people on Twitter about a poll question that is totally irrelevant. It's a hypothetical. It really doesn't matter that much or mean that much. But today is there's been some MVP talk in the city because Pierre Maguire was on Leafs Lunch yesterday. I think you were on that show.
I was on.
And he suggested that Mitch Marner, if he had a vote today for the MVP in the league, he would hand it to Mitch Marner. I think he was on First Up this morning, and he delved even deeper into the explanation and the X's and O's behind that take. And everyone's always commenting on Kawhi Leonard, and how they feel about Kawhi. And we had Amin El-Hassan on, I think, on Friday from ESPN, who's a pretty big wig with the NBA coverage on ESPN. And he said on Friday, if he had a vote, it'd be going to Kawhi Leonard. So I just posted the poll thinking, okay, maybe at some point we'll bring this up. And I asked people, which player gives Toronto the best chance for an MVP this season? And people are going crazy because I asked, it's either Kawhi Leonard or Mitch Marner. And Kawhi Leonard's running away with it, which I'm not surprised by that because Kawhi, he brings that name, that type of, not expectation, but when he was acquired, everyone knew if he was healthy, he had the capability of being one of the top 3 or 4 players in the world.
Yeah.
And when he's healthy, he has performed extremely well. I think the caveat is he's missed 25% of the schedule.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big chunk. I have a fundamental issue with handing a guy an MVP if he misses 25% of the sched.
And then, by the way, during that 25% of the sched, the Raptors are 7-1.
Right.
So that's how valuable he is.
And crushing teams.
Yeah, that's
like
what I mean.
At Golden State, at the Clippers, at the Lakers. Like good road teams, and they're crushing these teams without him.
You're 100% right.
Now, I personally don't think either guy is going to win it. But it's a hypothetical based on the city that we happen to do radio in. And Marner, a lot of people are responding to, he's not even the MVP on his own team. Okay, I'll grant you Freddy Andersen. I'd probably grant you Morgan Riley. But the fact is, when it comes to the Hart Trophy, there is a prejudice against those positions.
You're right.
They don't win.
Because they get their own award.
They have their own award. So if you honestly think Morgan Riley or Freddy Andersen would get more Hart votes, you haven't been paying attention the past 50 years. It doesn't work that way.
No, it generally doesn't because you just don't see it. I mean, unless a goaltender is absolutely dominant, a la Carey Price in 2015 when he won, the Vezina, the Lou Marsh as Canada's Athlete of the Year, and the Hart Trophy. I mean, it just doesn't happen very often, right? I think Price was the last goalie to win it. Who was the last defenseman? It was Chris Pronger, right? Back in 2000. It was the last defenseman to win the Hart Trophy. So, yes, Jose Theodore won it in a bit of a fluke in 2002 as a goaltender. But generally,
Hasek won back-to-back.
And Hasek was
and he deserved it. But you got to go back to the early '60s, the last time prior to Hasek, a goalie actually won the Hart. I love Freddy Andersen. I think as of today, he'd be up for the Vezina. He has a 0% chance of being nominated for the Hart.
Yeah,
he wouldn't even be nominated.
Which
for the
may
Hart.
Or may not make sense. If you really wanted to break it down and go back and reinvent the award. For me, goaltenders are probably the most valuable players on most teams. Without Freddy Andersen, how do you like their chances, Hayes?
I don't like them.
And
you know what? I would apply that to the Oilers. What has happened recently? Yes, Hitchcock is there, but Koskinen all of a sudden looks like a legit goaltender.
Right.
So
show me a good coach. It's the old saying. Show me a good coach, I'll show you a great goaltender. Right. And we've seen it. We saw it in November. Hayes, we got spoiled. The Leaf fans got spoiled. They had the best 5-on-5 save percentage in the league, right? In November, .950, by far the best in the league. In December, and by the way, they won 10 of 14 games. They were 10-4. In December, they're back to being average. They're like 9-10. So Freddie's kind of taking a dip. And what are they doing? They're floundering. They're not that good. They don't look. The cracks in the defense get exposed. You can't outscore all your problems suddenly, especially when your power play is not really firing on all cylinders. That's why, to me, Freddie Andersen is the MVP of the team.
Yes.
If he's not exceptional, I don't see these guys going anywhere.
No, I agree with you, but that is a separate conversation based on the reality of these votes. The Hart Trophy, it doesn't happen.
No, I know.
People don't look at it that way.
My thing is, should that be the way it is? And it's a good question.
I think, you know what, honestly, I think it could apply even more so, and it's probably more amplified with the Conn Smythe. Was Alex Ovechkin exceptional last year? Absolutely. But once Holtby finally got in and took off,
changed everything.
Eventually your goalies are going to steal. If you're going to win 16 games in the spring, your goalie probably has to steal 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Steal them. And then another 4 or 5, he was clearly the best player for you.
Yeah.
So you could do this every single year and say, all right, this goalie, that goalie, and that's why it doesn't work that way.
You're right. It's not working that way, and it's the same in baseball with the Cy Young and the MVP. They have that conversation as baseball too, and they say, hey, the pitchers get their own award. Let's try and keep it to position players winning the MVP, and you understand it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like I thought Pierre. I love Pierre's exuberance. I just think it's a stretch to think Mitch Marner is the MVP of the NHL this season.
No.
As much as I think he might be, in some ways, maybe the most unexpected dominating player. Like, I don't think people saw this kind of domination, even though you could point out, hey, after he got pulled off the fourth line last year, he went on 92-point pace from January 25th on and was pretty dominant, right? And now that he's playing with Tavares, it looks even better. But, man, it's going to be tough to go up against these this Colorado line that's playing lights out with Rantanen.
I think McDavid's
always going to be in the conversation.
Yes. If Ovechkin scores anywhere close to 60, he's going to be in there.
That's what I mean.
And I think McKinnon, you got Jack Eichel, but I think Marner, I said this yesterday, is in the same group as a guy like Johnny Gaudreau, who's been outstanding.
Yeah.
Pasternak, who was brilliant again last night in Montreal. Kucherov, like these really highly skilled wingers who drive their play, their lines. He's in that group, and those are superstars.
Braden Point's another guy,
Braden
too.
Point's a guy.
Braden Point is leading the league in primary points at 5-on-5, and Mitch Marner's right behind him. I mean, whatever that means to you, I think it means something, right? Like, it's just, can you create offense 5-on-5? And the answer for those two guys is yes. They're the two best creators of offense in this league 5-on-5 this season. That says something.
It does say something, and probably because we've rattled off so many names so quickly, it would lead to Kawhi being in a bit of a driver's seat if he played more games. Because LeBron he had a bit of a slower start, but he's really starting to pick up and heat up. And LeBron's going to get his love because he's on a Lakers team. He's resuscitated the Lakers.
Yep.
They were awful until he got there, and now they're alive. But the usual suspects, I think. Steph Curry's injury kind of takes him out of it. Durant has not been as dominant as he has been in past years. James Harden's been unbelievable recently, but his team has been so bad. Westbrook was dealing with injuries. Giannis is going to be in the conversation, but I don't think you can name 10, 12 guys who might be on the same level. It's a much shorter list, and Kawhi is in there.
I think you hit the nail on the head with LeBron. Like, there's going to be a narrative that forms here, especially if the Lakers keep this up, because it's looking awfully good over there. There's going to be a real push for LeBron because it's a bit of a history thing. Like, he's got 4 MVPs, and guess who has 5? The great Michael Jordan, right? And there will be a huge lobbying effort to get LeBron his 5th MVP. I really believe, and because to get him onto that level with Jordan. Because it's going to be one of the keys to the GOAT argument, right? The greatest of all time argument is going to be how many MVPs did you win? And I do think LeBron's got is going to have a lot of support to get him to Jordan's level in that race. As trivial as it might be, and as often as the MVP doesn't always make sense, the fact that some guys haven't won more, Shaquille O'Neal pops to mind.
Well, Steve Nash kind of stole his MVP.
Totally stole that a couple from Shaquille O'Neal when he was clearly the most dominant player in the league.
When he was on, it was gross. Like, people forget about that because Shaq's become more of a character than anything else. Kind of like Barkley in a way. Like, when Barkley was really on his game, it was like Jordan, and then you could argue it was Barkley.
Yeah.
And Shaq is just this bigger than life kind of personality, and with the movies and the rap, and now he's obviously on the panel. But when Shaq was like in the mood and ready to play, he was unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, he was 30, 20, and 10 for fun. Like, it was fun for him.
If they would have called fouls on him correctly or against him correctly, he'd still be shooting free throws.
And if he could shoot free throws, his numbers would even be more off the charts.
Yeah. And so for him to have only won 1 in his career, it goes to show you that you can't. The guy was the most dominant player in the league for a long span there, and he only won 1 MVP, which tells you something about the MVP award. The MVP award becomes a storyline award a lot of the time. Like, what's happened? What's happened to this team, and how is this team faring with this guy injected into it? Is a lot of the thing, and that's why LeBron, I think, has a great argument
great case
for
to
it.
be made.
It's being built. I don't think it's done yet because I think the Lakers could still take a step back here.